Journalists, depending on the type of stories they investigate or write, can be a subject of different types of threats or of cybercrimes.
Journalists are some of the targets because they are important to the society, because they sit on evidence, because they have a voice, and that's more than enough.
It is painful to have your digital identity stolen for 2-3 days without any possibility of stopping it. So everything is unfolding in front of millions, you said, if you're an influencer, and you're like, your hands are tied, you can't do a thing.
You don't have to live like a phantom, but you have to act like a target.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Cybercrime from the Frontline. We're in season 3. It's fantastic to have you with us. And today we're talking about digital safety for journalists and others who are digital natives who make their careers online. A lot to talk about, and I want to call your attention to a headline I just saw as we were getting ready for this podcast. It's from the Center for News Technology and Innovation, and they recently asked this question: how can we better ensure the digital security of the press and protect against cyber threats? Well, as luck would have it, that's what we're here to discuss today. So it's great to have you in the Bitdefender studios. My name is Bruce Sussman. I'll be your host for the next few minutes. As you can see, we have an esteemed expert panel in the house to discuss this topic. And first thing we should do is get some introductions underway. And so, Catalin, you're closest to me. You're the first victim.
I'll do it. No problems.
Tell us about yourself and introduce yourself, please.
All right. So, Catalin Koshoi, I'm the Chief Security Strategist for Bitdefender. I've been with Bitdefender for the past 21 years. So I had the opportunity to see the cyber threat landscape evolving since 21 years ago until today. And I usually call myself the little dinosaur because of my 21 years age. That's it.
Okay, excellent.
Hi, I'm Bogdan Botezatu. People call me Bob. I'm a Senior Director of Threat Research and Reporting, and I've been with the company for 18 years. But probably what's most important here is the fact that I've been working for the past 6 years with journalists, helping them recover evidence online or validate the legitimacy of information and so on. So I have a little bit of expertise as a journalist myself.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you, Bob. Welcome. And Juana?
I confirm that. We have been working with Bob for a few years now. My name is Ioana Matei. I work for Business Magazine, which is the only printed weekly magazine focused on business from Romania. We also use multiple digital platforms because you can't function without those these days.
Absolutely. Yeah, great to have a journalist here with us. Thank you. And Razvan.
Thanks for having me, Bruce. I'm Razvan. I lead corporate communications at Bitdefender. Been here for 11 years now. And without modesty, I'm the architect of the project. Together with these beautiful minds from Bitdefender, we shaped a product that truly deserves exposure. So I'm really glad that we give it enough airtime today during this podcast. Excited about what's next.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we have a project for journalists and increasing their security. So it's going to be really exciting to hear about that. I want to start actually asking you a question about the categories that we've kind of identified for today's podcast episode. One is professional journalists, the other is citizen journalists, and then there are influencers. And I'm wondering, as we look at these categories, why would each one of them be a target? Do you want to pick a category, Catalin, and say, why would this category be a target?
I can pick all three of them.
Oh. You can do that too?
It's easy to pick targets, Yeah, so journalists, depending on the type of stories they investigate or write, can be a subject of different types of threats or of cybercrimes. If you look at investigative journalists, some of them even receive death threats, get their accounts hacked, their reputation tries to get compromised, and so on. So it varies depending on the topics they wish to cover. If you look at the citizen journalism, these guys don't really get paid to do journalist work, so they do it mostly in their free time, so to speak. But on the other hand, they send information usually directly from the spot where it actually happens. And by the nature of the job, they're sort of exposing their location, their activities, and so on, which makes them quite easy targets. And the last category, influencers. Well, the influencers have to also make money out of this. So it's not just journalism. They also need to promote either products, and their focus is to get content that gets as much audience as possible. So if you want to target them, you hit them where it hits their most. You look at the audience and you try to kill it, to block their accounts, to make them lose from the friends, from the followers. And then they literally have to start over all they built for years, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Bob, do you want to add anything
Okay,
to that?
I want to do a different take. I would say that professional journalists and the rest of the categories of content creators have one job and one job only: exposing the truth, right? Discussing about important topics. That kind of puts them in the way of the powerful. What's common between these categories is the fact that they are using technology as an enabler. Nobody prints publication at this point. Everybody's on the internet. But for a cyber criminal, that technology layer is actually a attack surface. They see technology as a way of getting close to them, monitoring them, hijacking their channels for different purposes, or blocking investigations.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Thank you both for that. That's great. Now, Ioana, I want to come to you because you are a journalist, a prominent journalist in Romania, and I want to ask you, first of all, to kind of describe the role of a journalist, and I mean really your workflow that might put you at a higher risk, cyber risk a little bit for scams or cyber attacks, just because of the way journalists work, because a lot of people may not be familiar with that. Could you tell us a little bit about how things go for you?
Yeah, I would like to add firstly that professional journalists also have a diploma most of the time in the field of activity, and they work for a media institution which is well known in the country they are active on. And unfortunately, even though I have a diploma in this field, we haven't studied cybersecurity 13 years ago when I have finished college. So I think this is a problem. We were still writing our articles on pieces of paper back then. Even the exam was on a piece of paper, and I think things haven't changed that much these days, and probably they should, because the reality of the profession today is totally different. We are always in a hurry, like back in the days, but now in order to achieve a deadline, we use multiple platforms, we use multiple gadgets. I, for example, find myself always on the road with a laptop in my arms, in a coffee shop, in the train, in the airport. And I have recently found out that isn't that safe to use the public Wi-Fi, which I used to use. Also, we are persons who are public. I mean, we are not famous, but we have to put our phone numbers there. We have to put our emails there. Sometimes when we are broadcasting live, people know where we are. We are also sharing our home addresses because we are receiving all kinds of mail, physical mail at home. And we are a bit at risk from this point of view. I am a business journalist and I have lots of contacts in this field, so that might be a danger, I would say, for me, but also for my contact lists, because there are people with money most of the time and people with influence, which is more important. And if, I don't know, cyber attacker, how do you call them? A hacker gets my phone agenda or my laptop, I think all my sources would be in danger. So.
Right. So there's a lot of value there for attackers that you've described. And you kind of take us back to what Bob was saying about all of that is one massive attack surface, really. So that's really interesting. Okay, thank you for that description. Now I was wondering if you would share with us something that happened to you related to a cyber crime or cyber scam, and kind of take us back to that day and how it unfolded for you.
Of course, yeah, I'm willing to share that because I think that from mistakes you can learn. Back then when it happened to me, I felt very stupid. And I admitted that to most of the people who found out about that situation. But I was in a coffee shop working to finish an article regarding a big cosmetics company in Romania. And while I was writing the article, I have received a message on my Instagram account from a person I used to know. It was a person I knew in my childhood, and she asked me to help her to work for the same company I was writing about in that moment. So it made sense. I said, nothing can hurt if I can just press the link. I was focused still on my article, but I did that in a small pause. So yeah, after I clicked the link, I have lost all my access to the Instagram account. And yeah, it was a bit stressful because most of the people I knew from different the parts of my life, friends from childhood, colleagues at work, friends from my dance classes started to call me and ask me what happened to my account because I have started to promote a Bitcoin scam.
Sounds about right. A lot of crypto scams out there. Yes, indeed.
Yes, and I didn't know I didn't know what to do, basically, because they don't have a call center at Facebook or Instagram to guide you through the process of getting your account back. And I was in a hurry to finish the article. I wanted to finish the article and then deal with this situation. But the situation escalated during the time I didn't manage
Right.
it. And yeah, people started to call me, not very nice people, started to call me Bitcoin princess. Yeah.
Interesting.
Bitcoin.
So your reputation
Yeah.
now is taking a hit because now
Yeah.
they're, yeah.
And the reputation is the most important thing, I guess, especially for a professional journalist, but also for an influencer who loses, I guess, all her or his money coming from advertising when something like that happens. Yeah, for me it was quite difficult. I have managed to recover the Instagram account after a few days. And in that period of time, I have received more phone calls than, I don't know, during my anniversary or I don't know. I have socialized a lot. And it was quite exhausting and very embarrassing at the moment. But afterwards, I have decided to write an article and tell people about these stories in order for them not this to happen. So
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing it here today because, yes, it is embarrassing, but it happens to so many people in so many different ways.
But it makes sense. She's writing about business people promoting Bitcoin. I see nothing wrong there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, let's talk about different ways that journalists are being cyber attacked, I guess you could say it, or there's scams, there's attacks, there's all kinds of different things. Bob, do you want to kick us off with some of the ways that
Yeah, sure,
you see
but
them being targeted?
where do I start?
Well,
There's an infinite amount of threats targeting people. First of all, there's the opportunistic threat. Forget about them being journalists. They're like human beings connected to the internet, and that's enough for most cyber attacks to happen. We are targeted every single day. The only thing that makes a difference is the fact that our security solutions probably intercept that and kill it in the bud, right? So I would say that even if you're not important, you're still targeted. Chances are that attackers will get past your defenses at some point. But if you're dealing with more dedicated people, people who have an eye on you, people who are interested in breaching you, that's much easier. Journalists are some of the targets because they are important to the society, because they sit on evidence, because they have a voice, and that's more than enough for people who want to silence them, because they have potentially important contacts, like whistleblowers stored in the contacts, because they have exposure, because they have a follower base, and cybercriminals want them to act as billboards for various types of scams. So these are just some of the few details that make sense right now. One important thing is that beyond these digital interactions, which are dangerous, journalists also run the risk of physical harm.
right. And that link between the cyber
Yes.
risk and physical risk. now.
Probably, it's more difficult to harm somebody over the internet, but your whereabouts, your tech stack, your digital footprint could help somebody identify patterns, the road you take from work to home, for instance, or where you're parking your car, or stuff like this that can be leveraged and that can be directed towards physical harm.
Mm-hmm. And Catalina, what else would you add that comes to the top of your mind about the kind of targets that journalists are, or the motivations, the ways they're targeted?
Yeah, it's like Bob said, it's quite an impressive list of attacks that can then target you. But I can just name some of the ones that I've seen in recent times by interacting with journalists. And there's a whole bunch of people calling me every time something happens. And for instance, whenever somebody tries to reset a password, because that's what they'll do to you if you're a journalist. You have an email account or several email accounts, some social media accounts, and it's really frustrating, and it kind of scares you if at 3 a.m. in the morning you're working on something and you receive like, hey, you tried to reset your Facebook password. No, I didn't. I was working. Somebody's trying to hack me. And usually you get this because there are some notifications in there, but not all services have these things in place. Not all people are aware to use strong passwords and two-factor authentication, which means that in many cases these attacks actually succeed and you'll never know. These are trivial attacks. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they not, but then you can also look at very high-profile journalists that investigate very high-profile political things, or maybe, I don't know, money-oriented. And they get targeted by very expensive tools which can actually get installed in your device. And you have no idea this is happening, but the attacker has full control of your device. He can practically do anything with it, like listen to you speaking in the house, not on the phone, speaking in the house. They can record videos, they can see all your emails, text messages, and so on. And these have been created, and it's not just one or two, as most people know, it's actually several. But the way to differentiate them is by the number of clicks involved by the victim before it gets infected. So you have the 0 clicks, which means it's a 0 day. These are very expensive to build. But then you have like 3 clicks, 4 clicks, which are a lot cheaper. But depending who's your target and depending who's your attacker, some make sense, some do not make sense.
Yeah, interesting.
Now imagine that even if these attacks that Catalin described, resetting the password, do not work, that's a very a powerful knock, we're after you, right? Yeah. And this is normally a prelude to the fact that you'll probably going to get hit by something much bigger, much stronger,
like a bus
in the near future.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
But up. Yeah, hopefully not. But okay, yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, and thank you both. Now, one last thing before we leave this section of our conversation, I do want to mention influencers. The real value that they provide. I mean, I'm thinking of Ioana's example where her account was taken over.
Yep.
Some of these influencers that I know my kids follow, they have hundreds of thousands or, 1 million subscribers. I can only imagine the value of the platforms they're on in their accounts, right?
Yep. And actually, there's a recent type of attacks that we're looking into. We had some victims reaching out. Basically, so like I was saying in the description, the influencers are, their value is worth in the number of subscribers or followers, whichever way you want to call them. And the way they usually make money out of this project is that they promote either some products and some goods and some services, but they're not lying to you. They're not saying, They state from the beginning, this is a paid promotion. So it's not a lie, it's an advertising. But the recent types of scam that I've seen is that the attacker or attackers, they have a bot, several other fake accounts, which they report your account as not being on par with the community standards, which gets you to your account to be blocked. And then they reach out to you saying, if you want your account unblocked, you can pay me and I'll do that for you. And unfortunately, most of the times people pay. And the way they unblock it, these people have people on the inside working for the platform that are on a payroll as well.
Wow, some insider threats.
Yeah. So this is quite a lucrative business actually,
Wow.
because for influencers, for every day they are locked out, they lose money, right? The companies say, "I'm paying you to promote my product. Your account is unavailable, so you're just taking money and not doing anything for it."
Don't
Yeah.
mention the reputational damage, because that's a stain that will go off very, very
Right.
difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Okay.
In the end, influencers, journalists, at the end of the day, they are people, so they react to like the same basic emotions. Attackers do know which buttons to press, and especially when to press them. In such professions where people are on the go all the time, and also their reactions is the same. We've seen like the worst cases that you can imagine over time, and it does hurt. Like, it is painful to have your digital identity stolen for 2-3 days without any possibility of stopping it. So everything is unfolding in front of millions, you said, if you're an influencer, and you're like, your hands are tied, you can't do a thing. It is devastating, and it's also, I think it's not a strong word, it's also traumatizing. Yeah. We've seen PTSD after such incidents, because you can't forget, these days are like the toughest.
Yeah. Well, if you think about all the digital assets you have under your control, it's kind of like an extension of you. So I could see where it just feels like such an invasion, in addition to all the difficulty it can cause.
You work years to build a reputation, to build a community around your channel. All of a sudden, somebody barges in, deletes all your work, and then posts Bitcoin ads or different types of scams.
Yeah.
Unless the journalist itself is just a collateral victim, and the target is actually somebody else, and they're going to use the journalist as a proxy to reach that contact, which gives you the reputational damage as a journalist even higher, because you were supposed to report on good things, but you actually helped, unwillingly helped to a crime to happen.
In their words, they just said that they feel like being kidnapped or abducted, or even worse, some said that it feels more painful than physical violence, having your digital life stolen. So,
Wow. And in some cases, we've seen where reporters have had like their email inboxes drained, right? I mean, can you imagine all your sources, your career, like all of everything, your contacts
correct.
gone?
And when working with whistleblowers, that can actually lead to physical harm if that information leaks out.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Ioana?
Even your personal messages could be there. In my case, they weren't, but if they were, probably, I would have preferred a punch in the face.
Yes, exactly. That is tough. That's
What
tough.
were you doing?
Okay, wonderful. So this, what you've done is do a great job of setting the table and helping us understand how critical this issue is and what some of the challenges are, the risks, the targets, the attack methods, all these things. The good news is we are doing something about it through a project here at Bitdefender that is complimentary for journalists and influencers. And Razvan, I was hoping you could kind of unpack what we're doing and why we did it.
Sure, thanks for the question. Let's start from the overall context. Like, journalists do play a vital role in the proper functioning of any healthy country. That's precisely why authoritarian regimes try to control the narratives, and nowadays even democracies or powerful private interests tend to suppress stories that might threaten the agenda. So over the years, as I told you, we've seen too many cases, Bruce, of journalists, real people being harassed by either governments or corporations, and many of them turn to Bitdefender for help in addressing highly targeted threats over their work or their personal safety. At some point, we realized that strictly responding to these threats was not enough, so we needed to move from a reactive approach to a more proactive approach, because the urgency is real. Journalists are targeted by either phishing or legitimate messages, deep fakes that undermine their credibility. And also we've seen commercial, state-sponsored spyware, like the hard stuff. And this realization led us to the creation of this masterclass, freely accessible for media professionals across the globe. After extensive research and focus groups, and would like to thank Ioana here for being part of our focus groups from the very beginning. We developed a 2-hour online course tailored to all types of media professionals, so from broadcast reporters, financial people such as Ioana, and also investigative journalists. And we designed a course for all working environments, whether they operate from a newsroom, from home, or while traveling. The risks do follow them. So what makes this course even different is that it has a tiered approach, so we don't treat general newsroom people the same as investigative journalism. It starts with the fundamentals, like basic digital hygiene, and then recognizing basic phishing, and then it goes up to advanced protocols like encryption, using burner phones, handling border device searches, so things like that. After completing the course, we did ask for feedback, and our participants said that they gained greater confidence in their cybersecurity posture and also got equipped with the proper tools and knowledge to stay safe. This does not include only the award-winning Bitdefender solutions, but also complementary tools and best practices that strengthen their overall resilience. Ultimately, our goal was simple: to empower journalists, to give them the right tools, to let them focus on really telling their stories, the stories that matter, without compromising their security. By building this course around their specific needs and delivering it with some of the most prominent cybersecurity experts in the world, Bob and Katalin, I think that we truly raised the bar. For those of you who don't know, Bob and Katalin joining us today on this podcast were featured in an Emmy-awarded episode of Trafficked by National Geographic, hosted by Mariana van Zeller. So yeah, we definitely brought in our A-team to deliver this outstanding course. So really excited to see such a successful project accessible to media around the globe for free, and also discover more about it on our conversation today.
Yeah, that's great, Razvan. Thank you for that overview and mentioning the Emmy Award work here. So that's fantastic. What would you two say about this project and the course, and just what are your thoughts about how it can help journalists?
I'm waiting for the Oscars.
I'll be the first here. I've been working with journalists for a lot of time now. I'm a former journalist myself, so I studied journalism in university, and I know the gaps that these journalists have in terms of cybersecurity. They're not necessarily technical people. They're very good professionals, but they're using technology as an accessory, not like something that's part of daily basis. So they might not have that digital hygiene that protects them. And the more you interact with these people, the more cool stories you'll learn, but at the same time you realize that the more they are exposed to digital threats. So I started making a mental note of every conversation that I've had about technical stuff to journalists, and I compiled some sort of a topic book that I wanted to address in this masterclass. We piloted a small class at the university in Bucharest. We taught this class to a couple of newcomer journalists, students at the university, and then we did a small pilot on our journalists that we used to work with, and now we're ready to expand it globally.
What I like to call out is that these are not, isolated incidents. I mean, it does happen often. It's the reason why we started to onboard students from universities, just to address the issues that Ioana mentioned earlier, not gaining access to world-class knowledge from your early years, given that the new generation of journalists live online, literally.
Yeah, everything's changed, like Ioana, you were saying. In fact, I'm just curious, since you went through the course, is there something that you learned that you feel like makes you more cyber secure today because of what you uncovered?
Of course, I have learned many practical things, and this is what I enjoyed the most. I remember also the tagline of the course. I hope I remember it correctly. It's, you don't have to live like a phantom, but you have to act like a target. And this is why I didn't erase all my Facebook and Instagram, even TikTok accounts. Yeah, but I started to use more powerful passwords, for example, for all these accounts. You learn. I have learned the hard way, but also with this course. Also, I have learned that the public Wi-Fi is not a very good idea to use unless you have a VPN. Yeah, and since then I tend to use my hotspot more than that.
Well, those are two great factors that right there increase
Yeah.
your cyber defenses, if we can call it that. That's really good. Thank you very much for this conversation. And I want to wrap it up, though, just going around with final thoughts from each of you. And then Razvan, when we get to you, if you can tell us how journalists or influencers could get involved with
Absolutely,
the program.
yeah.
Okay, but Catalin, what are your final thoughts on this topic? We've covered a lot of ground. We could go for hours probably on it, but take us home.
Okay, I'll try that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I had this idea for this project many years ago when I was doing law enforcement training. Not me as a law enforcement, but training police officers doing their cyber investigations, including undercover work. I don't mean undercover work on the street. I mean undercover work on the digital sense, like going on various underground forums or other places where to interact with the cyber criminals and try to understand who they are, how they operate, and so on. And I had a journalist that had a problem. She was being hacked and various documents were stolen from her computers. And I thought, hey, the things that are in this training can easily be applied by a journalist investigating, not to hide from oppressive eyes, and to continue doing research and to write journalism based on the things that law enforcement is using to do undercover work. And some of these things are in the training right now. So it's a really good project, and I suggest all journalists, no matter what type of content they usually cover, to take a look.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, the same thing. Like I'm looking at journalism as collection of intelligence, and it doesn't really matter if you're working for the CIA, for the FBI, or for the Morning Herald. Right? The risks are pretty much the same. Bad, very powerful people want you silenced, want you kept away from the truth. And 20% of our checklist, if applied correctly, will save you 80% of the hustle, will make you more safe, more productive, more difficult to target, and more resilient in your day-to-day operations.
So you're telling me there's a checklist in this course?
Yes, definitely.
Oh.
And we call it OPSEC. That's a term that pertains to the military,
The geeky term.
right?
The operational security. Okay, yes.
So yeah,
OPSEC.
we're looking at journalists as high-value assets that need to be protected.
Excellent. That's great. That's great. Joanna, what are your final thoughts?
She's safe with us.
Yeah. And I'm happy to hear that, and I'm happy that you have created this course, which is essential, I guess, not only for Romanian young journalists, but for journalists from all over the world, because we are all confronting the same problems. I would like to add that a journalist today should know that cybersecurity is no longer a technical thing, how I used to think about it in the past, sorry for that. And you don't have to be tech savvy in order to apply some simple rules. Cybersecurity for journalists is more of a credibility thing, because our audience trusts us, our sources trust us, and we can lose this trust in a second by just clicking a link. So yeah, we must be very well aware and to protect ourselves more, because this is the way we protect not only ourselves, but also our audience and our sources.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah,
Razvan.
we do speak a lot these days about national security, homeland security. We do think that journalists are like a real pillar of any state. It should be treated as a matter of homeland security. It's why we created this course. It's why it's free. It's why it's online, so available to anyone in any country, even living in oppressive regimes. We truly think that since it's a 2-hour online course, It's easily accessible, it's free, so it's a must-take course from our perspective. You do get at the very end, as Bob mentioned, a real checklist, like actual measures, then you can start implementing the minute after you take the course. Any journalist can register for free. Just email us at publicrelations@bitdefender.com, and we'll make sure you get in the next wave of our workshop.
Okay, that is fantastic. Well, thank all of you very much for coming on here and discussing this crucial topic. And thank you for all your work, too. I mean, seriously, it's impressive to see what you have cooked up and how it kind of percolated over the years, and the timing is right now. So we will put a link to being able to join the course and get more information. The email that Razvan just mentioned, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So thank you so much for being with us here on this episode of Cybercrime from the Frontline, and we'll see you next time.